You're listening to Jonesy's Jukebox on KLOS. That was Janis Joplin, Piece of My Heart, Big Brother and the Holding Company, and before that was Santana, Soul Sacrifice. And we're here with Clive Davis. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you.
You look good.
Thank you.
You're always a snazzy dresser. You always.
Well, yeah, I've come from New York. We dress up there more than out here.
That's for sure. Do you ever wear like sweatpants and stuff?
I don't do sweatpants. No, I certainly do casual during the day, but not. I don't do sweatpants. No, I don't even do jeans. I'll do khaki pants. I don't know. I have a different background.
You never did even wore jeans?
I never did. No. Found it a little tight in sensitive spots.
Yeah. Oh man, it's great to have you here.
Nice, really nice to be with you.
If you was English, you'd probably be knighted by now.
You know, I was just knighted in France. It was an Italian royalty, and it was fun. It was a special night, I must say. This summer, actually, this very summer.
They knighted you there?
They did, yeah.
What for what? Just records?
I don't even know what. I know that they were royalty, and they had a big dinner, and I got a beautiful sash, and had respect for their tradition, and it was a lovely evening.
Did they do this with a sword?
They did. Yes, they did.
They did?
Yeah.
Wow. The real deal.
It was the real deal.
So what is this? Is this your documentary? Was this your idea or was someone else's idea?
My idea. No, my book came out, my autobiography called The Soundtrack of Our Lives, Clive Davis, The Soundtrack of Our Lives. And it went to the top of the New York Times bestseller charts for 3 months. And we got a lot of offers for biopics, but I didn't want that. And the idea of a documentary, taking advantage of all the archival great footage I have of artists that I had been involved with in my life, made more sense.
Yeah.
And the great Ridley Scott firm was the one that stepped up to the plate. Their director, Chris Brickell, I met with them, among others, chose them to, without any involvement on my part other than giving a lengthy several-hour interview for it.
Yeah.
But they would go to Patti Smith, they would go to Santana, they would go to Simon and Garfunkel and Springsteen and Steve Tyler, etc., tracing my career from the Monterey Pop Festival to current day with Alicia, Jennifer Hudson, etc.
Yeah. I watched the whole documentary this morning.
Oh,
in bed.
Okay.
I thought I'd leave it to the last minute so I wouldn't forget.
Okay.
What I just watched.
All right.
It's good.
Well, coming from you, I'll take good. From others, I would say that's a little tepid, but from you, for you, I would say getting good is great.
Did you ever? Was the Sex Pistols ever thrown on the table?
No, honestly, not. I never had an opportunity to listen or appraise them.
Was you aware of them at the time?
Yes.
You got like Patti Smith.
Well, I had Patti Smith, Iggy Pop, Lou Reed, Graham Parker. I had Stiff Records.
Yeah.
I had the Dead. I had the Kings. I had Patti Smith and the King. I had a very respectable rock history.
You're
and I'm in the Rock and Roll Hall of
I know,
Fame.
so am I.
Yes, that's why I say it as a co-member.
Your horizon is so wide. It's crazy. I mean, it's so wide. You definitely are the man who knows a song when you hear it. There's a lot of people who don't. There's a lot of people who think they do. There are some other good guys, but the classic line is, I don't hear a single. I mean, you must have drove some of your artists crazy with that line, right?
Even though you say I might have driven them crazy, I think, first of all, you have to have a criteria because there's no artist, Steve, that I've ever met with that doesn't want their album to sell.
Sure.
And there's a bloody mess afterwards if it doesn't reach their objective. So the standard line, do we have a single or not,
yeah,
is you know, that's the business we're in.
Yeah.
And without a hit single, you show me more than 10 albums that have sold meaningfully, and I would question it. So, yeah, but, you know, in the documentary, you saw where even Springsteen, with the Greetings from Asbury Park,
Yeah.
delivered it to me, and I said, you know, I love the album. I'll testify for it, but there's no radio hit.
Yeah.
I said, can you consider going back? And he was not threatened by that. He was not put off by that. He said, I went back and I wrote Blinded by the Light and I wrote Spirit in the Night. And he looked right in the camera and he said, well, that was a good call.
Yeah, amazing. I love that album, though. I love that song, Angels.
Yes.
That's a beautiful, that slow song.
Yes.
Is it called Angel something, isn't it? Oh, I forgot. But it's great. And then that other band went on and had the biggest hit with it. Manfred Mann's Earth Band.
Which, said it again.
Blinded by the Light.
Yes.
Yeah. So you never picked up an instrument. You
never
play a note.
I never planned music as a career. I don't read music. I did find, Steve, that after following my instinct, after I discovered Joplin and Monterey and signed the Electric Flag and Blood, Sweat and Tears and Aerosmith, that I might have a natural gift I never would have known I had. I had no money. I lost my parents as a teenager, got myself through school, was studying to be a lawyer because that's all I knew of how I would make any money. And by luck, I was offered to be counsel for Columbia Records. If that didn't happen, I would never be in music today. And as I followed my instinct, after I became head of the company, every artist made it. And I was looking at 20 and saying, you Santana, looking at 30 more and saying, you Chicago. And so over the years, whether it's for artists that are self-contained, rock and rollers, or whether entertainers that need hits, the R for A&R repertoire, finding those songs for first Manilow, then Dionne Warwick, then Aretha Franklin, and finally Whitney Houston, that distinguished. I didn't just sign them. I came up with those copyrights, you know, that allowed, in the case of Aretha, her career to go on, her win more Grammy Awards, have #1 records. I Knew You Were Waiting for Me with George Michael, and Freeway of Love, and Sisters Are Doing It for Themselves with Annie Lennox, you know, so that I found that I had a natural gift. And the book and the documentary, of course, really, I think, compellingly goes into all that.
Yeah. And you're still working. You're still
I'm
doing
releasing an album, believe it or not. You haven't come, but I do have a party, a Grammy party, the night before the Grammys every year.
Yeah.
This coming year will be in New York for the first time in 15 years. And 2 years ago, while I'm looking out, because I MC this, and I look out and there's Puffy and there's Taylor Swift and there's Miley Cyrus and Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters, and I say, look, I want you guys are doing great current music. There's a guy here that I just want to make sure that you see him and see why an album of his greatest hits has been on the Billboard charts for 10 consecutive years. And I introduced, of course, Taylor put her hand to her mouth. I said, yes, 10 consecutive years. And it was Johnny Mathis, who I said is up there with Sinatra and Tony Bennett as the great pop singer of all time. And it led to an incredible amount of press and media. And so I'm coming with an album this week, okay? It's called Johnny Mathis Sings the Great New American Songbook. You'll recall your old friend Rod Stewart. I worked with doing the Great American Songbook, and we sold 26 million over 5 albums. So here, Johnny Mathis sings Adele's Hello. Johnny Mathis sings Bruno Mars, Just the Way You Are, and Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. Special album. I'm releasing it this week.
It's crazy. How old are you?
I am 85.
Amazing. You're still doing it.
And still doing
You're
it.
the man.
Where is wood that I can knock? I only see steel.
Well, this is kind of cheap,
okay.
cheap wood.
Cheap wood, I'll take it.
All right.
Okay.
Let's play a song. Let's play Bruce Springsteen, "Blinded by the Light." From your recommendation.
Okay.
I don't hear any singles. We're here with Clive Davis, Jonesy's Jukebox, KLOS. On KLOS, that was Bruce Springsteen, "Blinded by the Light." We're here with Mr. Clive Davis. How are you, Clive?
I'm well. Good to be here with you.
Yeah, it's so great to have you here. Honoured that you're here. So the new documentary, Clive Davis, The Soundtrack of Our Lives, is premiere tomorrow night at the Cinerama Dome, including a Q&A with Clive Davis in person. Tickets are on sale at the ArcLight Hollywood website. And so that was on the Bruce Springsteen album was on
Columbia
yeah. And it was so funny, the documentary, that guy who didn't like rock and roll before you signed any rock and roll bands. What was his name? The funny guy with the tash. He was an artist. Mitch Miller.
Oh, the guy that was running Columbia before I got there, yeah. Yeah. Well, he was famous.
Yeah.
He was very famous.
So he had a lot of pull to convince him that, you know, we need to change it around a bit.
Well, no. He left before. He became an artist, Steve.
Right.
And so he was not at Columbia when I was made president.
Yeah.
So I never had to confer with him or consult with him. He just had successfully built a label in his image, and with Andy Williams and with Streisand and with Vicky Carr, and you know, he had a lot of wonderful middle-of-the-road artists that were quite successful.
But you knew that something had to change at this point. That was old hat.
I knew the music was changing. I knew that I didn't know how to change it. I was the lawyer being made president. I had to watch, and luck took me to the Monterey Pop Festival, where I sensed that a cultural, musical, social revolution was taking place. I was there alone from my company, but I was seeing Mike Bloomfield on guitar. I was seeing Buddy Miles on drums with the Electric Flag. I was seeing Janis Joplin, and I realized that a revolution was brewing.
Yeah.
I had to trust my instinct, and I began quietly signing these artists.
That was what,
67.
67. And I mean, most bands, artists who you sign had success.
Well, you know, I mean, that festival was so unique because east of the Mississippi, we didn't know what was going on at Haight-Ashbury. I came there with khaki pants and a sweater,
it's the
tennis
thing.
sweater.
The picture you in the crowd.
You know, and there everyone's wearing flowers in their hair and robes and long dresses or different outfits. I was the one on the outside.
Yeah.
I was the outsider there.
Yeah. So did you go to you're just a music fan, really, aren't you? I mean, you love it.
At that time, I was a music fan, yes.
You love it.
Yeah. Oh, I've grown to absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I mean, my passion, I love doing it to this day. It changed my life forever.
Yeah. What's your views on where the record business is now, and that big downward spiral whenever Napster and all the rest of it just went down? I mean,
it went down because the public got used to the false idea that they should get music for nothing.
Yeah.
And it disrespected what made America and the Western world great. You got to protect creativity. You got to reward your creative people. To take away their music for nothing is wrong.
Yeah.
And so I'm very encouraged, if you will, that with the digital revolution right now, that we're back on our way to health, that streaming has been a whole revolution in and of itself. And although they'll work out the appropriate financial rates, music is bigger, being heard by more millions around the world, really than ever.
Because iTunes. Because of iTunes?
Yes, well, that and the availability of Spotify, Apple. And,
Yeah. I'm old school. I get my stuff off of iTunes.
Okay. That's not so old school.
Well,
There are people that still buy CDs. You know, I love a CD.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't even have a CD player. They don't even put them. I bought a Dodge truck, don't even have a CD player in it.
I see.
Like 2 years ago.
Do you vinyl it? What do you?
No, I just, on my iPhone.
On the iPhone.
It's so much
That's
easier.
very modern. You're very much more modern than you realize.
Yeah, I know. But I meant, like, you know, I like the availability. I love it.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. When I was a teenager, I used to love to go to the record stop, look at the album covers. You get an album cover, you take it home.
Yes.
You put the album on, you stare at the album for hours.
Yes.
That was a whole thing. Well, it was the only thing. No one knew anything else. But there was something magical about that, because this is my question. Like, there's so much stuff now, like so much stuff, whether it's media coming at you, 1,000 albums, 10 million TV shows. Back when I was a kid, you could focus on things because there wasn't that much. It was enough, but now, I mean, how do you cipher through having any success when there's so much going on?
Sometimes too much is not good, and the idea there was much more good during that period that we're talking about, whether it be 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, hip-hop revolution then. So I'm not saying that because there's more sources, more music hitting you today, that it's more good stuff. That's not the case, in my opinion. I think that, you know, all of the kinds of music, rock, you know, when you look at all the great bands, all the great artists, right now we've got to make sure that with the digital revolution that there's not that degree of homogenization.
Yeah.
That there's not, I mean, urban stations are playing all hip-hop. Where are you going to get the next Aretha Franklin and Whitney Houston from? Where's the next Bob Dylan and Bruce Springsteen going to come from? I mean, there's not as much attention to rock as there should be.
Right.
And so it's not that you're overcome by an oversupply of great. You're not. You know, there's a lot of cherry picking going on, a lot of singles being bought without the curiosity. When an Adele comes along, 25 million people around the world will buy that album.
Yeah.
But that is the exception.
Yeah.
And you're looking for those singular performers that will not satisfy their listener by just cherry picking one cut off their album.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think things go in cycle. Like right now, you don't hear a lot of guitar in the top 20. You know, it's a lot of just beats and vibe and the right tempo to suck you in.
Right.
You know, a lot of it is homogenized.
Right.
And I've never been that attracted to mainstream. Like, I like your Lou Reeds, your Iggy Pops. That's kind of my bag. But you're a businessman.
Right.
But you also got a great ear. Incredible.
Well, I show it more today at this party that I throw the night before the Grammys every year. So last year, I looked at it and I said, well, I've got to have rock. I don't care who's nominated for what. I mean, I've had the Foo Fighters. I've had a Velvet Revolver when they were playing. So I looked at Panic at the Disco, this young man, Brendan Urie, and I thought he was real talented. So I brought him on stage. And he did great, you know, but you have to really look carefully to see who is performing today that's unique and special. Yeah.
Do you think you still have ears for new young guys?
Say that again.
For new bands?
Yes.
Do you get it because you're older?
There are very few new bands that are unique. I I take home every week from every format records that make that chart. And I listen because if I'm going to still do it, I don't want to go over the hill. I want to be able to know as music is changing. So I always worry a lot. I fear of going over the hill. And so I keep my ear fresh so that I could be. I wish there were more new, fresh, innovative artists that could really turn you on. The Killers are real good.
Yeah.
I mean, that lead singer is special. So you're looking, but it's not that you're overwhelmed with choices. There are a few very good, but there aren't enough, and rock should be more important than it is.
Well, there's always people who have talent. There's people that's born with talent, regardless of what era or what's going on technologically. It's whether do they get heard these days.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I know. Right now it's dominated by dance and it's dominated by hip-hop.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of hip-hop you'll hear. And the best of hip-hop is wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, the book and the documentary goes into when I saw music changing. And I find it's Bad Boy Records. I met with a young 21-year-old Sean Puffy Combs, and he described for me his vision. He played for me Craig Mack. He played for me Biggie, Notorious B.I.G., and I bought in. I'd never really heard of him before. He had a little career at Uptown Records, but I bought in, and we enjoyed incredible success at Bad Boy Records with Mace and with Puffy and with Biggie and 112. And I did it again when I knew I couldn't find it, although I signed Gil Scott-Heron, one of the first rappers, who was great.
I love his album. Yeah.
As R&B changed, you see what I do, finding songs or self-contained artists had to be supplemented. So I started LaFace Records, and you find in this film, Usher and Pink and Outkast and, TLC. So that it's not just either rock or pop. I mean, the film is filled with the greats coming both from, urban as well as hip-hop.
Yeah, very wide spectrum you have, with good ears, even in that world, the rap world.
Well, it's been important or you don't survive, that's for sure.
Yeah. Barry Manilow, the song Mandy.
Okay.
You found that for him to cover. He didn't write that.
He did not write that.
I always thought he wrote that. And it was
Barry wrote some songs. When I found him, he was a brand new artist. He had one album out that, as he said, sold 5 copies. No one knew of him other than as the arranger and orchestra conductor for Bette Midler, okay? And so I signed him, and I knew he'd have to have hits. No pop artist has a successful album without hits. So Barry, I listened, and then I gave him this song. It was called Brandy, but when I was head of Columbia, had a record, Brandy, You're a Fine One.
Yeah.
From the group
Looking Glass.
And so we changed Brandy to Mandy. And he came up with the arrangement that I love.
Slowing it down.
And we went to number 1.
Yeah.
And so then he said, all right, I'm a writer, but you gave me a number 1 record. You could have 2 songs on each album of mine. And that's the deal we made. And over the next several years, I gave him, I write the songs and Can't Smile Without You and Weekend New England. And I ended up with more songs, becoming the darling of the music publishers, the professional songwriters. So I said, well, I got to find another artist. I've got all these songs that I think are hit songs. And I knew I had to sign a female, not another male, to compete. So I signed Dionne Warwick, and with I'll Never Love This Way Again, Deja Vu, Heartbreaker, the Bee Gees, that's for Friends of Four. it led me to the great, great, great Aretha Franklin, who was looking for a creative collaborator. And I spent many, many years working with the incredible Queen of Soul, which of course led me to Whitney Houston, which is one of the key subjects of this documentary film.
Yeah, it almost goes into another film when you start talking about Whitney Houston.
Well, we had to do the life justice. I didn't want to. I wanted to cover the up, but the director and the firm as well, of course, and I agreed. We had to cover the down and the mixing of the two. And I think we just got a review that said you stand, you stomp, but you also cry. And that the film was a very powerful film that they've done. I'm very happy with it and proud of it. And it doesn't end before everybody has a tear in there, not just because of the death of Whitney, but the tragedy that was involved.
Yeah. The tragedy that seems to be in so many artists as well, battling with whatever demons you got.
Yes.
You know, was you a fan of Amy Winehouse when you first heard her?
I loved Amy Winehouse's music. I was a great admirer, yes.
She had a natural, beautiful voice, I thought.
Yes.
That just got wasted after a while.
Yeah.
Would you have signed her if you could have?
I'd like to believe I would have, yes.
Yeah. Let's play some music. Let's play some Patti Smith, Before the Night. Here with my guest, Clive Davis. The new documentary, Clive Davis, The Soundtrack of Our Lives, premieres tomorrow night at the am I saying it right?
The Cinerama Dome.
Yeah,
the ArcLight Cinerama Dome, at 7:30, I'll be doing a Q&A with the director, a man named Andre Harrell, will moderate, and I really look forward to that 7:30 showing because that Cinerama Dome is a huge theater with a great screen and a great sound system.
That's the place with the big seats, right? It's like, oh no, it's a regular cinema. I don't even go to the movie cinemas anymore. When you watch, did you ever go to cinemas?
Of course I do.
You still go to cinemas? You don't have one in your house?
I do have one in my house.
See, that's where I'd rather watch it.
But when a movie comes out that is, I'm tipped on, there's no boy, I'm not going to insist on only seeing it. I mean, you sort of get rooted into into a routine. No, I'll go out. Sure, I'm here with you. I mean, yes, I would prefer you to be in my hotel with me, but I'm here.
Let's play some Patti Smith, Because of the Night. Take it away, son. Into Jonesy's Jukebox on KLOS with my guest, Clive Davis. That was Iggy Pop, 5'1". Before that was Patti Smith, Because the Night, written by Bruce Springsteen. And Clive's here because he's got a documentary tomorrow, The Soundtrack of Our Lives, premieres tomorrow night at the Cinerama Dome, including a Q&A with Clive Davis in person. Tickets are available at the ArcLight on the Hollywood website.
It's the, let me add, it's the 7:30 performance that I'll be doing a Q&A with the director, Chris Brickell.
So you're doing the Q&A before the documentary?
No, after the documentary.
So
they show the documentary at 7:30.
Okay.
And then I'll be doing the Q&A.
Okay. Well, listen, mate, it was fantastic having you here.
I appreciate it.
A real treat.
Thank you.
All right, where are we going?
Kinks.
Going to play the Kinks. Yeah. This is Come Dancing.
Great. Come Dancing. The Kinks are great. Always will be.
Yeah. Take it away, son.